everyone, I'm Maya and I'm super excited to introduce you to Inês Ajuda here at Dare to Care today. Inês is a vet working in animal welfare who loves goats and influencing meaningful change. We will be discussing her work at Eurogroup for Animals, a non-governmental organization based in Brussels and involved in EU policymaking. We will also talk about her views on animal welfare, what it actually means to be a vet, and her diverse career choices. Hello, Inês. It's wonderful to have you here at Dare to Care today. Could you please introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about what you do?
So my name is Inês Ajuda. I'm currently the program leader for farm animals at Eurogroup for Animals in Brussels. I'm a vet. I started my career in Portugal, which is where I became a vet. And then I did research, as we'll talk about, and then I moved to the UK, which was an incredible experience, a culture and professionally wise. And now I moved to Brussels in midst of pandemic, which was very fun to get to this job. So that's me.
So that must have been very interesting to see, different countries and work in different cultures. So how do you think this kind of created your work ethic? Like, how did it change your perspective on animal welfare as well?
So being from a country that is not, recognized as super animal welfare aware, which is Portugal, I thought really early on in my career when I decided to work on animal welfare that eventually, I had to move to another country. It's not that I don't think we can build an animal welfare in Portugal. I think we can definitely do, but I need to make myself stronger in this arena before I come back to my country and really kind of impose that in a good sense of the words, if there is one. So I think by going away, it helped me, or it's helping me to grow in my knowledge on animal welfare, and also my career has gone through from academia to engaging with food business and now engaging with European institutions. And that path also shows my interest in, building into different different stakeholders' perspectives to really make the arguments even stronger. So there is no chance if I have to argue on animal welfare that I will not know where they are coming from, because I think that is also the other big advantage of traveling and living in different countries, is that you really improve your quality of putting ourselves in other people's perspective, which is always the best. I feel the best way forward in any situation in life, and especially coming from a country that is at the tip of Europe, we don't get, and also because it's, we are not the richest country that usually people travel to work or to study. It's changing now, but it wasn't before when I graduated. So I didn't get a chance to contact as much with other cultures as I would like, and other nationalities. And when I moved to the UK, and also because, I moved to work for Compassion in World Farming, it is a very international organization. So I had that chance also to really grasp this idea of living in a different culture and contacting with different cultures. So I think it's always an enriching experience, whether it's short time or it is like a life choice. So for a longer period of time. So yeah, I think that helped me a lot.
Yeah, that's a very interesting, change from academia, as you said, to animal welfare, corporate outreach, which we will be talking about later. So could you tell me, why did you choose to become a veterinarian? Like, what was your motivation to go to vet school?
It's really hard to answer that question because since I remember myself as a person, I always wanted to be a vet. I think it boils down to the fact that I felt very drawn to animals. I don't know, I can't remember it. My parents you always tell me, like, you were tiny, you were walking and you're already running towards an animal and you were very interested, and stayed loads of time looking at them and petting them. And I still have that feeling every time I see an animal, even the ones that are less cute or whatever. And I know, when you become a vet, you kind of shield yourself a little bit to say, oh, I'm an animal lover, blah, 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 because, that's something we can discuss as well. But, it is kind of a challenge sometimes for us vets. But the truth is, I still find them so cute and I love them. And I love to see an animal happy, and it's still like that background feeling that I can't explain. It's just, I guess I was born with it or something, if that's not too fluffy to say. So I can't remember. I always said wanted to be a vet. I remember like when I was, when is it? Like when you're like around 14 or something, that you do those professional tests to see where you want to be or what are your preferences. And mine was very silly because he told me things such as, you want to be an astronaut? And I was like, no, but I want to be a vet. It's like, I don't care about anything else. And it was really like, in Portugal, it was really hard to get into vet school. So it was very stressful because I would probably die if I couldn't get in. And, it's all about the grades. And I had to kill myself studying to be able to get that, because I'm not that, very brainy person. So yeah, so I don't have like a straightforward answer. I think it's just, I was born with something that told me, you have to work with animals. And also, we could have thought of other professions, but in Portugal, it was like the logical way to go. Like, if you want to work with animals, become a vet. There was nothing, and I didn't grow up in a farming community or anything like that. I'm from the city, so I guess I didn't see farming as an option because I didn't have contact as much with it. So vet it was.
I think that's something that's very common for most vet students. We just kind of have this connection with animals, and we just feel that, this is the only way forward. So that's why we choose vet school. But you said that you specifically love animals, like the way you contact with animals. So you always, like, when you see an animal, you just get this fuzzy feeling. So, but it's interesting because you chose to go into research, and specifically into pain indicator research. So why did you choose this path?
So there was a mix between an opportunity that I had. Basically, I was doing loads of internships, doing my degree, and contacting a lot with professors that dealt with farm animals, because I've decided very early on that's what I wanted to do, and animal welfare specifically. And this professor that got this grant opportunity, I used to, go with the students, even the older ones, because I was really, keen and wanted to learn more. And I wanted, I had that feeling that if I didn't do anything extra, then I would finish the degree and I would be just one more, in the pool of the crazy amount of vets that we have in Portugal. It's crazy. Like we have more than 100 vets finishing that degree every year. And we are a tiny country. We have like 7, I think, vet schools, or 6. Yeah, so it's crazy. So, I really felt that urge that I need to do something else, because I will finish my degree and I'll be just one more in a grade of. And the other thing is, it's great vets. Like, all the other countries are super happy to have Portuguese vets because we have really good degrees. So it's really a competitive market. So because of that, I did a lot of work with a professor, and this grant came up, and it was about animal welfare. Yes, I do. It is hard to see animals suffering, but I think for me, it's even harder to see them suffering and not doing anything, And one of the ways of doing something is, first of all, proving that they are suffering, because for us it's quite intuitive, but for the majority of people, or not the majority of people, but for a lot of people, it's still like pain is still or maybe sentience, not pain per se, but sentience is still a big question mark in terms of animals. And also, some procedures as well are not even considered painful. So it's not that people doubt that animals feel pain. I think that's something that, thank God, our society has kind of established, and is shocked when we see videos of like dogs being mistreated or things like that. But then farm animals are a little bit, maybe it doesn't hurt that much, and it's a necessary procedure, and there's no way of doing it. So I felt like if I could contribute to bring a little bit more light and information into, this is painful, this is how we can handle it, and hopefully then, if I evolve my career towards that, to even get to a point that we don't have to prove anything, because we just don't do it, period. We just don't make animals suffer. But in order to get there, I needed to get, the knowledge, and this was an opportunity to be a part, or starting to be a part of this process of making animals suffer less and show people that animals suffer. So it's hard, but kind of a necessary step, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can imagine it must have been very hard, especially that you did research on goats, right? So like your favorite animal, as I know.
Yeah, very cute.
Yeah. So how did you cope with the emotional load that kind of goes with such research?
I think I balanced it with, I'm super goal orientated. So I think I balance it between like the final result of like what we're trying to achieve, and who we're trying to reach. And also it comes back to that thing of, knowing how people perceive the world, because it gave me, this project it had some, unfortunately, animals caused animal suffering, not in the sense that it was new suffering, because the animals we use in our research, they would all be like, for example, disbudding, this was one of the themes, they would all be disbudded anyway without pain relief. It was just that I wouldn't be watching what they're doing and studying, because they would be still disbudded in them, because it was on a commercial setting. So it's about, it was about balancing that part of the project with everything else, the great impact that we could cause. The fact that by doing this, I had loads of opportunities to liaise with farmers and get their perspective, which is something that, I use and I still use a lot in my new, further detached from the farming context roles. And also, I learned a lot about goats in the way. So it was not just about this painful events, but yes, I can't lie and say it didn't hurt or it wasn't super hard, but it would happen even if I wasn't watching. So at least I was trying to do something about it. But yeah, and goats are very vocal, so they make it even more obvious how painful it is. So it is hard.
Yeah, I can imagine it was very hard. Like it's even hard for me to listen to this, but I do understand that, it's necessary. And I think it's so important that vets, especially, vets who have compassion, engage in things like this. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for your research. And so, but you also worked in clinical practice for some time and with dairy goats and sheep. And what made you decide to change the course of your career and kind of, switch to working as a research manager of the European Food Business Engagement Program at Compassion in World Farming? And what were also your main duties in this job?
Yeah, it's always a question that I get, especially from my fellow vets that practice. And also from the farmers when I moved on to this kind of NGO role, because I had one dairy farmer that once asked me, so why did you, stop practicing and went to the other side? Did you see something so wrong that you've given up on it or something like that? And no, I did. Well, to be fair, I saw a lot of things that shouldn't be done, but it wasn't that the factor of decision, because my main challenge was that I like practicing. I love being around animals and I miss it sometimes very much. But I felt that what I was doing, it was super meaningful for that animal. But due to my expertise in the European project and everything, I could, use my knowledge and my connections with Europe and understanding a little bit more what's happening outside our, farm bubble, to try and help farm animals at another stage. So, and also I was aware back then that vets wouldn't be that keen on doing this kind of step up and leaving the farms or the small animal practice, whatever it is, to go and try and influence, kind of people that are much more detached from the farming side. So I felt that I could use what I've learned and influence other people and really kind of, use the vet stamp, which is still, thank God, super powerful in the NGO world and with the stakeholders that the NGO deals with every day. But so I think that's why I felt, I have to do something else. I have to use all this knowledge that I created, and also my experience in practicing my, the farmer's perspective as well, because sometimes it gets so lost. And we tend to go like, oh, they're just hurting animals or something like that. But actually, there's loads of really good people in farming and with amazing intentions, and it's about lack of resources as well. So there was all this, wider issues around this that I felt, there's something else I can do. So I moved to the UK, which is kind of the center of animal welfare NGOs, or the origin of it. It's changing, but the origin of it, more or less. So I moved to the UK, and I had this great opportunity to become kind of the research manager, which is like a technical advisor for a team that engaged with food companies and pushed them to go further. And using my technical expertise, it was like a perfect match, and it really helped the team to, make industry go where we want to go, where we want them to go eventually. So
So what did your job at Compassion in World Farming consist of mostly? Like what did you mostly do during like as being a research manager? What were your main duties?
So my main role was being technical advisor, which meant that every resource that we produced, everything that we said, every time we go on a meeting and had more technical background, I was the person that was responsible for that. So, for example, if we had to start working with cage-free hens and systems, but we very quickly realized that it's not just about you can't just say to a company you have to open the cages of the hens and let them out. There was a lot of background work that we had to do in visiting systems, reading the science, and really come up with a concise ask for the companies to say it's not just about you can't just open the cage. You have to really rethink the system overall so hens can have a good quality of life, even if it's not perfect. We prefer them to be outdoors and everything like that, but really rethink the system. So I was the person responsible to look at all the technical knowledge behind it to then allow the rest of my team to go and sell. It's not selling the concept, but really pushing this concept to industry. So that was my main role. But also my other role was about, which kind of evolved with me in being in a role, it was about this communication of the technical side. So, and there's loads of studies about us vets not having this training on communication. I'm very passionate about, making people understand science and the technical side. And working with industry really prompted me to get better at it, because animal welfare is a tiny problem in the massive other problems that they have. So you have to be super clear, super sleek, and kind of make the concept a little bit sexy. So, so they pay attention to you and not, of course, other issues are important as well, like plastic in the oceans or climate change, all of that. But animal welfare has a part on those subjects as well. So it was really interesting for me to evolve that kind of communication style and help the team to really be at ease in communicating technical content in a much more comprehensive and digestible way.
So this sounds like a job that is very far away from clinical practice, and you said that sometimes you miss clinical practice. So how do you feel? Do you ever feel detached and like you're not a real vet? Because some people who work in things that are not clinical practice but are vets, for example, as sales people and stuff like that, they sometimes feel like they're not real vets. Do you ever have this feeling? And how do you, if you do you have any ways of combating this feeling? Or if not, what would your advice be to people who do have this feeling sometimes?
I actually feel more of a vet than I felt before, because before, I was practicing, and yes, you're doing a clinic and everything, but now being a vet is even more, valued. It's like both of the organizations, so the one that I work now in Compassion, they both use, my vet title as a big stamp of credibility. So I'm super proud, even more proud to be a vet now. I can relate to the feeling, of course I miss being on a farm, but I don't feel less of a vet because of this. And also, when I have a lot of friends that are vets, or if I go to a conference and I meet with vets that are in the field, I actually love that, because I refresh myself my knowledge, and also I can easily go back to having this kind of conversations about abomasum displacement and things like that if I have to, or lameness. And finally, I still use loads of my knowledge. So one of the things that I usually say, I have friends that have brothers and sisters that are now starting vet school and things like that, and I'm like, just pay attention to the class. Because I've used genetics and I've used other things, so like other classes that I would never think I would use before. So I probably use a broader part of the knowledge that I got in vet school now that I was using when I was practicing, because it was very focused on just treating an animal or maybe preventing a disease, but now it's much more broader than that. So I feel more of a vet now probably than I felt before, because I'm using loads of the skills that I got at school, at uni. But if someone is struggling with that, I think just try and focus on that. Try and see how much knowledge you're using, because we're not probably touching animals every single day. Although now it's hard to define because I started this job on COVID time, so I didn't have a chance to go on farm yet. But on my previous role, I used to go on farm a lot and speak with farmers, because one thing that we, at least in this role, I can't really have the luxury to is lose this, context of farm, because otherwise, I will never be able to convey the message, because I will lose, that advantage of saying, yeah, but I've been on farm, I've seen this and I've done that. So to try and see how much knowledge you're using, because I'm sure, there's a lot of vet knowledge still in there.
This makes me feel so happy because, I just graduated a few months ago and I'm already feeling like I'm losing my knowledge. And I was very worried that, because I'm planning on going into animal welfare work, so not in the field specifically. And yes, I was worrying that, my knowledge would just kind of disappear. But now maybe, I'll start looking at this from a different angle. Maybe it's not going to be bad. So after working for 5 years at Compassion in World Farming, you decided to move to your group for animals and became program leader for farm animal welfare. And I'd just like to mention here to our listeners that we do have an episode of the podcast specifically on your group for animals. So if this is something that you're interested in, I highly recommend a listen. It is episode number 12 with Joe Moran. Inês, could you tell us a little bit about your job at your group for animals and what are the main challenges lying ahead of you? And what area of animal welfare will you be focusing on?
So first of all, listen to Joe, because he's amazing. He's such a political brain. It's like I've been learning so much with him. So I'm sure the podcast I have to listen to that, because it must be super interesting. So I moved on to Eurogroup for Animals 2 months ago, 2 months and a half almost. I decided to make this move because I loved working with corporate. I learned a lot, and it's like a very fast change. You just have to nail a commitment. You just have to make them all see, and you have like loads of like executive meetings and everything. But a commitment is a commitment, so they can, if they want, they can backtrack. And that's the other part, and the interesting part of the job is make them accountable and everything. But, and it's just one company, which is great. It can be a massive company, but, there's always laggers or companies that stay behind, or companies that simply shut down and don't care. So I felt, I was missing this gap of really the even bigger picture. So as I was saying, like I moved from like the animal to the research, to the science, to the companies, to then eventually the bigger picture. Who knows what's coming next? But I felt like I wanted to move on to this bigger picture of lobbying the European institutions, because it's change that takes longer. But when it happens, it's very solid. It's something that we can really pin companies and farmers and everyone else to do something about it. And also, I think it has even a bigger involvement of citizens, and how we can help the rest of, European citizens, hopefully globally as well, to really connect with animal welfare and know and allow them the right that they have of having transparency on the product. So I was very, motivated to do this bigger change. Also, to be super honest, the other thing that, and I think it's something that it's useful. It would have been useful for someone to tell me, is that just because we are vets and because we spend a lot of time studying to be vets, I think we just enter that mindset of like, we're going to be vets, even if it's an NGO, everything. But I discovered there are other stuff that I love to do, such as managing people. I love managing people. So I had this ambition to become, a team leader, a program leader, and really take on a responsibility of a program and really shape it and deliver it. So this also, this move to the Eurogroup also gave me this opportunity. And that was one thing that I didn't know about me until, I had that opportunity, because I was like concentrating on being technical and being a vet. But there's, I discovered this about myself as well. In terms of the areas I'm going to focus, will still be farm animals. Overall, the advantage of being in a Eurogroup, I think as well, is that at Compassion World Farming, we only dealt with farm animals, and at Eurogroup for Animals, we deal with all other animals used for other purposes, so like research animals or wildlife or pets, companion animals or equine. So although I'm not involved in those programs, I get to contact with them a lot with my colleagues, and I love it because I'm learning a lot from the areas that I haven't looked at it since I left uni. In terms of achievements and barriers, what's coming next? So at European level, we now have a great opportunity, which is called Farm to Fork Strategy. So basically, I think for the last kind of 17 years or something, there was like a stalemate. So nothing was happening on animal welfare legislation. The only opportunity we had was to show investigations and really pin down the commission to say this legislation is not being enforced and member states are not complying, and that was it. And now, for the first time in a lot of years, we have this opportunity that animal welfare legislation is going to be reviewed. So which means that we finally have an opportunity to really change something that was wrong from the beginning. And create new legislation as well. So, for example, at the moment we have like broilers, pigs, calves. We have the General Animal Welfare Directive. We have transport and slaughter regulation. So now we can expand it as well. So, for example, fish can have a place in legislation specifically for them, or dairy cows, and also improve the other ones, existing ones like broilers, pigs, and everything. So that is the main goal, or what we want to achieve. This is due to be, finalized in 2024. So, and that's our main focus. But also our members, we are a member organization, so we are driven by our members' goals. And a lot of our members, Compassion included, but other ones as well, are also moving to this space that they believe that higher welfare is the way to go, but it's a drop in the ocean. So there's something else we need to do, which basically goes to reduce the number of animals that are farmed. And this farm to fork strategy, although it doesn't clearly say that, it has a lot of opportunities. So that's another thing that we want. I'm, challenging the program to evolve, is to think, how can we start planting these seeds to lead to a higher welfare world, but also to a reduction of animals in the farms, at least in the European Union. Who knows how it will influence the globe? But yeah, so those are the two main things.
This is absolutely fascinating. So when you were talking about planting seeds to, kind of influence policy changes, is there any specific way you do this? Is it through meetings? Is it through networking events? Or maybe you don't want to talk about this. I'm just very curious.
We can. Yes. I'm sure Joe spoke a little bit about it. So we have, the way your group does it is that we have a technical team, which is a farm animal team, a lot of knowledge on animal welfare, legal aspects as well. But then we have the political team, which Joe Moran is a part of, that really, is our sales team. They are the people that take our message. So we formulate a message. So, for example, we want the stocking density in the broilers directive to lower. I'm not saying will be specifically that, but let's take that as an example. The farm team, does the context, writes exactly the wording we would like to see, and then we give it to the political team to go and have meetings with whoever we want to influence. So there's 3 big institutions in the European Union, and if it's the time that the Parliament is discussing, the European Parliament is discussing it, then we tailor it to the MEPs. If it's the Commission, then we tailor it specifically to whoever is responsible to take something forward. But also, we do events. So on the events are chosen exactly like this. So depending who is a stakeholder or institution that we want to influence. And then finally, because we're a members organization, we don't contact directly with the public. So our members are our, avenue of contact with citizens more than us, as we are more, tailored to lobby the institutions. So we try as much as we can to use our, center position to coordinate members to push for something. So, for example, this legislation that is existing now on animal welfare is going to be checked. So there's a fitness check coming, and everyone can say what they think about this legislation. So we can, coordinate the members to submit specific feedback to this fitness check that is in line with with all with what all with all we believe. So it's so there's loads of tactics. This is one of them. There's some examples of them, but we are the other thing that this is bringing, the farm to fork strategy, and there is a biodiversity strategy as well, is that, and also because of COVID, I think finally people think, everything is interlinked. You can't really separate the way we treat animals for the food that is on our plate to the way we travel to everything. So I think people getting stuck at home really made them think, and about having evidence that is connected with wildlife and everything. I think he really changed people, and also the commission, to think, okay, everything is connected, so we can't really ignore one thing to go to other. So a lot of good interlinks there as well, to use aesthetics.
Well, maybe this is one good thing that kind of resulted from this pandemic, which was horrible. But then again, maybe some people will change their perspective on some things. So, especially speaking of pandemics and the future, what is your vision for the future of animal welfare in Europe and maybe the world as well? Because the EU influences world policies, international policies as well. And what do you think will change first? So what is the area that is most probable to be better for animal welfare, and which areas of animal welfare are still neglected by the corporate sector and legislators?
So in terms of what areas are going to change, that's an easy one, because we know already that the transport and slaughter regulations are up for revision. And I think there's loads of reasons for it, but one is because it's very shocking, everyone, the amount of investigations that come out on transport and on slaughter is just very, and the public is very receptive negatively to it. So maybe that's my personal opinion, not super founded in anything apart from my gut feeling. But I think that it really helped to move that decision forward. So that is why we kind of at least 95% sure that the regulation is going to be reviewed. Nevertheless, they may be reviewed to a way that we don't like, so we have to keep pushing for the right way forward. In terms of my vision at the legislative level, which may not sound very ambitious, but what would be really nice is that they review the legislation in line with what the world is looking like and asking, and citizens are asking, and the science is telling us, but also that they review it in a way that can be enforced and exist. Because it's amazing to have a transfer regulation, but then if we still see loads of infringements to the law, then in the end, we will be criticized as a model as well in the world, because they'll say it's great that you have this legislation and you showing it to our faces, but then it really doesn't translate to reality. So I think at legislative level, if we could get that will be already a great win. In terms of industry, and also kind of connecting with the public sector, is that I think industry and the public sector need to work more together. So there are the sectors, such as, for example, carbon footprint and things like that. They are really looking into how the governments can work with industry, because sometimes they are a little bit disconnected. The majority of the industry, or a good percentage of the industry, are already committed to go cage-free in eggs, and the European Union is not even looking, or maybe starts looking now, but it's not even, should have already be considering about why do we even need enriched cages if the majority of the industry is already moving on. So that connection, I think, will be my one of the things that I would like to bring also to the group, but it would be something that should be more which should be stronger. In terms of the industry, I think it's the industry is now at a stage that there is a lot of commitments, but there isn't, again, turning something into reality. So they have a lot of commitments, but they really have to see things through what they've committed. So especially now, for example, with the European chicken commitment, there's a lot of commitment, but on the ground, there's still things are happening, I think, but probably not as fast as we wanted them to happen. So industry really needs to now live up to the commitments that they've committed to, And also, this will move on. So fish, pigs, all these other types of production, they can't be overlooked. So it will come. So hopefully industry will take a more leading role in this. We'll see.
Definitely, I hope so. I hope the industry will kind of catch up with what's happening with consumers, especially because consumers really do want better animal welfare, and you can see that everywhere in polls and in consumer choices as well. So, what advice would you give to the vets of tomorrow? This is kind of the question that we always ask at the end of our podcasts, and we'd like insight from vets who already have been successful.
So, first of all, I said one. It's pay attention to glass because it will come to to bite you. That kind of like in Portugal we have like things such as biochemics and things like that. I thought I would never look at it again. Well, there you go. I've looked at it again. So, not overall, but some things. I think don't get too frustrated because I think sometimes, especially in some places in Europe, it can be quite theoretical. So if you're getting super frustrated, just go out and do an internship somewhere. Just get real and see what's out there. And also, I think it's great now that there are these initiatives because when I was studying, I don't think I even envisioned, vets would work in NGOs, especially because Portugal doesn't have NGOs, but a lot of NGOs, but also because, I never even thought. So I think it's great that to really try and dig what vets can do because it's not just about practicing. And if you're really passionate about practicing, great, just well, because we need it as well. But also because there are markets that are getting very saturated, like which is probably what prompted me to think about alternatives as well. And in Portugal, the majority of my friends, to be honest, they are not practicing. So we just found other ways, startups or what else, like official control, things like that. We just found another way. So there is a lot out there, so just look for it. And finally, it's great, like whatever I dreamed of being a vet, it happens. It's great to just have this title, and everyone respects us so much and know how hard we've worked to get here, that just being a vet already almost automatically puts you in a place that that like not on a pedestal, but like you feel throughout your, I think at least I do, throughout your professional life, that those hard years of studying and just burning your eyelashes looking at books, it really pays off. I think the proudness of being a vet, it just grew and grew and grows with me every single day. So I love it. So I'm super happy that I made this decision in the end.
Thank you so much for your insight today, Inês. It was really lovely talking to you.
Thank you. I loved it as well.
If you're interested in learning more on this subject, go ahead and check out the Eurogroup for Animals website, www.eurogroupforanimals.org.